Today, we learned that the US unit of Binance halted dollar withdrawals. That's according to its updated terms. Now, the terms page says that if customers want to withdraw US dollars from their accounts, they must first convert dollars to stablecoins or other digital assets. In June, we learned Binance US customers would no longer be able to use US dollars to buy crypto on the platform. The crypto exchange blamed the SEC's, quote, unjustified civil claims against its business for the change. What does this all signal to you?
Well, I mean, you're on top of the news. This news just came out. It's in the line of a whole bunch of announcements, I think just yesterday, halting UK withdrawals as well. And it's one of those things where continuing to affects their business, absolutely affects their business. I think volumes now in Binance are down 70%. Coinbase volume is down 50% and they're gaining share. So it's an incredible situation. I just hope that whatever happens will happen sooner than later because people do need access to their funds.
And it certainly will be interesting to continue to monitor what transpires on that end. But on the day FTX filed for bankruptcy back in November of last year, you spoke with me about the widespread impact of the FTX fallout on the industry. You noted that you've seen a situation like this play out in traditional finance with the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and that it took a long time for people to get back into the markets. You warned last November that the FTX fallout will play out for some time as well. And now that it has been almost a year, do you think people feel comfortable getting back into the crypto markets, or do you think more needs to be done to restore the trust that has been lost following FTX's implosion?
So I think you have to answer that with two different audiences. The on-chain analytics, meaning crypto native people who've been in the space for a long time, are very, very strong. Something like 70% of the addresses are now off-chain in cold storage, meaning they're hodling and they're not selling. So the on-chain, the old school crypto native continue to be holding on and are more convicted than ever. However, the second group, which is the newer people into the space, they continue to show, call it a lack of enthusiasm. And this is exactly why the exchanges, even like a Coinbase in the US, have volumes still down 50% year over year. And it doesn't seem like the bottom has actually, played itself out as of now, at least.
Some argue that the FTX trial is a bad look for the barely regulated crypto industry. Over the past few months, we have seen some regulatory advancements here in the US. In July, for example, US lawmakers advanced the Fit for the 21st Century Act to establish a crypto framework. More recently, Senator Elizabeth Warren's crypto money laundering bill has been gaining more support on Capitol Hill. But do you think enough was accomplished since the implosion of FTX?
Since the implosion of FTX, the good news is it's brought a lot of awareness, and there's been a lot of competing bills, as well as a lot of discussion on what to do in the space. So from that perspective, it is good. But in the US, there is still a lot of uncertainty. What I think has been great since FTX is regulation overseas. In the EU, MiCA is a framework that's going to go into effect next summer in 2024. And as an operator of Ava Labs, talking to potential business partners, a lot of developers and enterprises are gearing up to launch projects and activity in 2024 because they have more clarity. In Asia, activity with business partners in, call it Korea or Japan, are really, really moving because, again, they have more clarity. So there's a lot of good things happening around the world since the FTX situation. In the US, the good news, it's brought about awareness. I think we need more certainty still. We're still working on that in the US.
Switching gears, the Wall Street Journal reported last week that Hamas militants behind the surprise attacks in Israel earlier this month raised millions in crypto. We also learned that Israeli police have reportedly frozen crypto accounts tied to Hamas, which has been designated a foreign terrorist organization by the US and has been sanctioned by officials. In fact, the Financial Times reported today that more than 100 Binance accounts have been frozen at the request of Israeli law enforcement since the attacks. What does this show you about blockchain technology and the potential to help track this sort of illicit activity?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy that bad actors and illicit funds can be stopped from moving. And again, it's actually a good example here where blockchain actually, if used right, can be a tool for law enforcement and for institutions to prevent bad actors. Blockchain is pseudonymous. It's not completely anonymous. It's totally traceable because of the provenance of the chain. And when you need to, when that money or funds needs to get off into fiat, that's where the data analytics firms can actually help out with the law enforcement that's necessary. And in this case, as you said, at the exchanges is where the change from call it crypto into fiat was happening, and that's where it was stopped. So I hope it's a good example for lawmakers to realize that this is a space. There's a lot of bad publicity about money being moved around in bad ways, but if used properly, it is actually a tool. Blockchain is a tool because of the traceability for law enforcement.
So we have spoken about crypto hacks before, but earlier this month, Avalanche upstart Stars Arena confirmed a quote major security breach. The social app was drained of nearly all locked funds as hackers exploited a smart contract that helped secure tokens on the platform. A few days later, Stars Arena posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, that the vast majority of the stolen funds were recovered. But what was your reaction to that breach, and what can be done to stop something like this from happening again?
So Stars Arena is a social finance app that was deployed on Avalanche. Avalanche is a permissionless blockchain. So Ava Labs, the team, had no interaction with Stars Arena before they deployed on Avalanche. That's important to note. It's an example of how a lot of developers in this space have great ideas, and clearly the transactions and the user growth in Stars Arena created a lot of call it interest, and there was great activity on chain. However, a lot of these developers probably launch a little bit quicker, and they need better call it audits and security on their applications. So I think it's unfortunate. Most important thing, it's unfortunate, and the money of individuals that was lost. The good news is most of that was recovered. Thank goodness for the individuals. Always about the community first. And listen, I think going forward, it's another example where a lot of these dApps probably should have slow down a little bit and focus on the security of the aspects of the dApp. And I think in 2024 it'll be interesting because these exploits will probably go down in 2024 because all the developers I'm talking to, they're exploring AI as a potential large language models in order to do audits better and faster than the normal way. So I'm hoping in 2024 there will be fewer of these DeFi or SocialFi exploits or any type of exploits in the application world.
And we're all certainly hoping for the same. And speaking of that, we're now in the last quarter of the year and we're about to wrap up 2023. So I'm wondering what your crypto outlook is for next year. What should people pay attention to?
Well, we just talked about Stars Arena and they're going back online. Uh, and I think we will see one of these social fi dApps figure it out. There's been a couple already, and they've had booms and some busts, but sooner or later they're fixing the business model and it will work well. So that's one of my predictions. Actually, I also think that Bitcoin ETF will likely be approved, maybe even in Q4. And when that happens, I anticipate a lot of inflow. I mean, Larry Fink was just on TV yesterday talking about how Bitcoin demand is there, as well as perhaps a hedge to the instability in the world. And it's almost like digital gold again. So that is coming back into play. I mean, just think about this, 9 trillion of assets at BlackRock. And over time, if 1% of that is allocated to all their individuals and through their thousands of, call it, through thousands of RIAs, I mean, that's close to like 90 billion, right? And the whole space or Bitcoin itself is only 450. That's a lot of incremental capital over time. And that'll also get a lot of enthusiasm going in the space.
What is your Q4 outlook for Ava Labs? What can people expect?
Ava Labs is helping a lot of enterprises deploy on the Avalanche blockchain. It's a software and services company, works with a lot with enterprises. There are so many great things happening. I wish I could announce the specifics, but I can tell you about some of the categories. How about that? There's going to be real world assets, and the team's going to be announcing some of these deployments at Singapore's FinTech conference in November. These are I think game-changing developments with, call it TradFi banks and asset managers. These announcements will be really big. I'm super excited for these institutional real-world assets being deployed on Avalanche. On top of that, there are things that we're doing right now in Asia that are super exciting, where large companies are actually using, the Avalanche blockchain and the sub network or the app chain to transform their business model and customer user base. Perfect example would be SK. SK is a large conglomerate in Korea, South Korea, and they have deployed a, call it app chain or subnet on the Avalanche blockchain, where their first application on this blockchain, their blockchain, is a loyalty program. This loyalty program, I think I've talked about in the past. It is one of the largest loyalty programs in the world. 24 million South Koreans are in this. It's a pooled loyalty program with 100,000 unique merchants, and they share these points. But the users of loyalty points in this app, in general, are actually a little bit older. So SK wants to lower the age of the users of their applications. So what they've done is also created applications on top of their blockchain with K-pop singers, as well, to create more engagement, as well as with esports team. So suddenly now you have SK has created 3 applications on top of their blockchain, or their app chain, if you will, where they're going to use loyalty points as a mechanism so that it can create more engagement with K-pop K-pop ticketing, as well as esports. So suddenly you're going to mix these 3 communities. And it's already shown in the early days, over 170,000 addresses have been created in their wallets, and they've increased engagement, and they've already started creating a younger user base by mixing these communities through the loyalty function in their, call it subnet.
Last time you joined us was back in early August, shortly after the launch of a program focused on tokenization called Avalanche Vista. Now that it has been a couple of months since the launch, how is this program going? Is there demand for this new program?
It's going great, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. There are some announcements that will happen in November. And I wish I could talk about it now, but it is helping. Once again, the whole purpose of real world assets is to basically tokenize the right of ownership and put them on chain so you can create collateral and other usage that perhaps you couldn't do it in the traditional world, and also provide more access, as well as create efficiency in the underlying technology. So Vista's going great, and it's part of some of these announcements in November in Singapore's FinTech conference.
John Wu, president of Ava Labs, thank you for once again joining us here on Crypto World for that wide-ranging interview on a slew of topics focused on crypto.
Thank you, Talia.